Welcome to the fifth of my Postcard podcasts relating to the songs and postcards on my Surface Noise EP. And we're down to the last song now, but the penultimate postcard. And this is the fifth postcard. And the postcard actually depicts some strange reflections on the carpet in our lounge. And I think it's a combination of the reflections bouncing off the cafe blinds that we have around the deck, and possibly something reflecting off the gas fire. I've lost all sense of direction on where I was pointing the camera when I took this photo. Anyhow, that is noise on a surface, so therefore it's surface noise. And the song in question, When Ziggy Came Back from the War. The song deals with my grief ever since 1973 at the retirement of the Ziggy Stardust character, and my bewilderment as a teenager at seeing the changes that Bowie underwent in the 3 years after that, and when he finally returned to the UK in 76 after leaving in 74, he came back as the Thin White Duke, and in between he'd had a well documented period of getting very skeletally thin on cocaine, and he'd transformed himself musically, vocally, and physically, and I used the war as a metaphor. When I originally recorded the song on my album The Day That Peace Broke Out, that came out in 2018, it was one I was going to hand over to a band of musicians to play, but my demo just grew and grew and grew till I realised that I had to compete it on my own. And at that time it sounded very different to how it now sounds. The original track started like this. Very much my classic twangy and bendy guitars. Bass, drums, 12 string. And it's got some piano in there as well. When it came to doing the launch for The Day That Peace Broke Out, and I had strings on the song The Day That Peace Broke Out, I thought of using Ziggy as my final song. And I say final because there's always an encore. And I wanted everyone to come back on. All the musicians who've been on the stage. There were 19 of us in all to come back on during the coda. And on the original album version, my coda went around 4 times and built up. And I thought I'll make it go around 8 times. And then I asked Jared Backer if he could quickly come up with something for the string quartet and the woodwinds to play during those 8 iterations, just so there's something to do when they came back on. And anyhow, worked brilliantly in the concert. And then 4 years later, we're getting ready to do the Orchid Thief album launch, and I thought, having had that coda on there, it'd be really good to do that for that song in that concert too. And there were 2 songs which we added in that weren't on the Orchid Thief album, but needed to have orchestrations for them. And both of them I gave up on. And both of them, Jared contacted me and said, look, I've had this idea, what do you think? And with this one, he played, he sent me a MIDI track, and I heard the MIDI intro and the first verse, what he was doing through there, and I thought, yep, let's go with this. So of all the arrangements we've done, this and Please Mind the Store While I'm Gone are the only 2 songs where Jared actually arranged them entirely himself. And so that intro that you just heard on there, which went like this, got transformed into this. This is with the live strings and woodwinds. So I definitely wanted to have that. It's just gone from being this kind of big, twangy guitar, rock and roll, slightly Richard Hawley-esque, massive guitar sound thing, to a kind of 1920s Berlin nightclub concert hall mashup, and I loved it. And so we just have that and my 12-string guitar then coming in at the end of the intro, because it all comes to a halt here. When Ziggy came back from the war, he was never the same. And then partway through we have piano coming in as well. And the piano came from a live performance, in fact, 2 live performances, at the Methodist Centre in the lunchtime concerts at Whiteley, where we performed it with the strings and with Jared on the piano. And luckily, Chris Foreman recorded both our concerts there. And with one thing or another, like me fluffing vocals or a truck going by or people in the audience coughing and various things, and technical issues and certain tracks not actually even recording properly, we didn't get a full band or an orchestra recording of it, but the piano came out beautifully. And what I've actually got is the first half of the piano from one concert and the second half of the piano from another concert. And I built the entire studio track around the live performance, which was done on a beautiful Yamaha grand piano. And so here is the piano isolated. Of course, you've got some bleed from the other instruments in here too, because it's all live with microphones inside the piano. And yeah, it was so beautifully recorded, I couldn't resist it. So we recorded the string quartet at Chris Foreman's Swamp Shack studio, and that's Chrissy Jackson on the first violin, Helen Griffiths on the second violin, Susan Case on the viola, and Margaret Van Altena on the cello. And then I added the woodwinds here with Jocelyn Beath on the flute and Joe Henderson on the oboe. Along with doing my guitar and vocals, obviously, which I'd done here, and then I brought in Liana Hart, who had sung at both the Whiteley concerts, to do the harmonies and to sing the la 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 kind of coda that I have at the end of the song. There are basically only 3 parts to that vocal, but Liana and I each sang 2 of them an octave apart, and then I put the other one in the middle myself. So we start like this. La 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 la. And Liana's second part here. La 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 la. And I do an octave for the second part. La 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 la. And then my third part comes up. La 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 la. So it builds up over those last 4 iterations. We're starting with the piano, and then we have the strings gradually coming in, pizzicato, and then the strings and woodwinds and the guitar and bass come in along with the vocals, and it builds and builds and builds to become this massive finale to the song. And because it has those 8 iterations, it's become the longest track that I've actually recorded in the studio, or released anyway, and it's 6 minutes 52. And I don't normally do songs quite that long, but this one just required it because of this beautiful coda that Jared had written. And that pretty well covers it, so it's time to wind up this particular Postcard podcast, and thank you for watching, and I'll be back with the final one, which deals with the actual postcards themselves and why I went with postcards in the first place. In the meantime, this is my picture.